Let's get more perspectives on the local government elections held in Lagos and other parts of the country, as we have joining me right now, Director of Programs, Yiaga Africa, Cynthia Mbamalu. Thanks a lot for your time with us on the news at this time. So let's begin with this now. How would you assess the conduct of the local government elections so far?
I think one thing that remains apparent across board was the low turnout of voters, or you can almost say in some locations we did not even have voters showing up at all. So turnout was abysmally low across the board, and I think that was one general issue. And then if you look at the process itself, so if you want to look at logistics and operations, and then the general administration. One major challenge we had observed was the late commencement of polls. One of the things we had seen, for instance, going around some of the local government, in fact, in Mushin, as at 10 a.m., materials were yet to leave for polling units. And so you can imagine what time the polls would commence in that location. And in other LGAs we have gone through, be it Ikeja, Shomolu, going down to Surulere and what have you. Several other local governments across board, our reporters, our observers had sent in reports that the polling process, or rather the opening of polls across different polling units where we visited, actually commenced between 10 a.m. To 10:30 a.m. That was when you had more of the polls opening. So we just raised a lot of questions with respect to logistics management and issues around deployment of materials, because the polls were supposed to start at 8 a.m., but it didn't start. But beyond that is also the question on administration, the process itself. I think there was a need for better clarity on the guidelines. The smart card reader, for one, was deployed. We had observed that in several polling units. However, it was a question on usage. And I wouldn't totally blame the ad hoc officials, because voters were asked, voters were told they could also come with their TVCs. And we all know that the TVCs cannot be read by the smart card reader. So it also meant that there were a lot of voters who were manually accredited. But I think it's important to actually state here, because the reports referencing the speaker's comment on the smart card reader not working because of network coverage. The major challenge with the smart card readers we observed was actually one, some of the machines were not fully charged. Remember, the smart card reader is used to accredit voters, one, to verify the permanent voter's card, and to authenticate the fingerprint, the biometric of the voters. So it were not fully charged, or it was an issue of configuration to polling unit, because the smart card readers are to be configured to polling unit. It's there's no need. Issues of network or coverage does not come in place when it comes to accrediting the voters itself. So I just wanted to also put it out there, because the challenge we had seen was that some of them were not fully charged. Some of the officials were not properly trained on how to use the smart card reader, and then in one of the locations, the smart card reader was not the right one for that particular polling unit, because if it's not configured to the polling unit, then it wouldn't be able to be used to accredit voters within that polling unit.
Right, quite an extensive, apologies for coming in right now, but quite an extensive one you've listed so far. But what can we do to get past this if we're to pursue a more credible elections in future?
I think first is to understand that local government elections generally have major challenges, especially with respect to turnout. A lot of citizens do not take ownership of the process. They do not feel connected to local government elections, and it also shows the way how we place premium on local government elections, because there's a lot of focus on the national elections. So I'm not surprised we had low turnout. As at 3 days ago, some voters did not even know the elections we are holding today in Lagos State. So generally, it's a challenge with local government administration, which is why I'm hoping that this time around, the conversation around local government autonomy would be adopted in the constitutional amendment process. The second point is the role the political parties play in the entire process. I do believe that if we had more citizens participating, more voters coming out to vote, if they were aware of the process, we would actually see a more credible system, because when voters are present, it is difficult to manipulate the process. So the political parties had failed in their campaigns to even mobilize voters to participate in the process. And also, they had also failed to ensure that candidates were candidates that are known to the people. Let us also remember that as at the eve of the elections, we were not certain on who the candidates for the elections were, because we also just received the final list of candidates at the eve of the election. So a lot of voters were not even sure who the candidates for the elections were. So that is also the other conversation. And I think the last part is the administration of local government elections. And that is where a lot of work needs to be done. The State Independent Electoral Commission, there's a lot of opportunities to build that institution, to be independent institutions, build their capacity to administer elections, both providing them with financial, human capacity, and technical capacity.
All right, and that's a fine
that needs to be done
with
respect to administration of local government elections.
Many thanks, Cynthia Mbamalu, Director of Programs, Yiaga Africa. We appreciate your insights on TVC News at 10 tonight.
Thank you.